Hey everyone, Nick in the States here, and today's kind of a mea culpa Gibson video day, and it all kind of starts back with a conversation I had at my local guitar center with one of the Gibson reps, a guy by the name of Daniel Pulver, and he was very gracious to hear many of my complaints about some of the 2015 Gibson differences, changes, I think what a lot of us in the community had issues with, and so we actually had a really good two-way conversation about it. I didn't just say they sucked and scream at them, but I explained what I found to be some of the flaws, and I think linked to a video right below of when I went through kind of the Gibson issues as I saw them when we first went and saw them just after the first of the year this year. And to sum it up, it was just there were fit and finish issues, there were some of the decisions they made on how to commemorate the 100 years of Les Paul type situation. So there was that, but it was a good opportunity to think about, really, now that some time has passed and I've played quite a few of the 2015 since then, and kind of give you a slightly less rush of judgment and less visceral reaction, but a more kind of thought out. As I say, we talked to Daniel Pulver, who's a great dude from Gibson. He's been on the Three Guys and Guitars videos on YouTube, so go check those guys out too. And he was kind of give some quick feedback. So explained to him, you know, the theory behind not liking the G-Force tuners on the new ones. But I also expressed gratitude that there are no holes in the headstock or routs in the body, so they're very easily taken off. An interesting thing is I also said that if the battery dies, G-Force tuners suck to tune. They're just 1,000 turns relative to like a normal tuner. And he said that they recognize this, and what they're actually doing now is, in the later runs of 2015s, giving you a second battery. So you can always have one charge to swap in, so that you shouldn't be in that problem. So at least it's a nice little band-aid to the problem and a thoughtful thing on it. Another one that I showed was some of the paint imperfections in the early 2015s that came out, and the huge price costs, you know, at $4,000 or $5,000 guitars in the premium room of the 2015 Les Paul standards. And I guess there was a bit of a rush to get things in a Guitar Center. I think they might have also, he theorized they might have had some new people there, and I will say that the subsequent ones that I have seen that have come in over the course of the last 6 months or so have been definitely better than those initial batches. So that was an interesting thing there. And then the last thing that I pointed out was, I pointed at one of the 2015 Les Pauls, actually any of them, and I asked him to show me how many tones of cream plastic were there. And I think prior to 2015, Gibson was great about having all the plastics be the same exact hue and match on majority of their guitars. Maybe not on some of the LPJs or S's or some of those lower-end ones, where it was purposely not. But on the high-end standards, Signature Ts, Classics, all those, the plastics tend to match. And his answer was 3, maybe 4 different shades. And because of that, I think there were some errors, especially on like the removable pickguard, with new suppliers ramping up in time to get it out, that they didn't do as good of a job matching as they would want to. With that said, I have not seen one 2015 yet where all of the cream plastics are the same hue, which is sad. And for a guitar in that price range, that's kind of a big negative. You'd expect that in a sub $500 guitar, but not a north of $1,500 or $2,000 or $3,000 guitar. So be that as it may, at least they've heard it. I think Gibson's trying to react to it. They're not completely the devil. They're also, bound to their customers. So share the feedback with them. So that's the kind of some of the gist of the conversation we had. But it was a great conversation, and I really kind of enjoyed it. I got a free T-shirt, which was cool. I did buy a Gibson 2015 Les Paul Jr. that day, and I got it home and realized that the finish on top of the hologram, which I'm not the biggest fan of, I previously stated, was actually lifting off. And I've seen this kind of a common thing across it. So if you are going to buy a 2015 Gibson, and I'm going to go over some of the cool ones that I like this year as well, don't just be sure to check that hologram, because the finish on some of them is lifted or bunched or whatever, or it's not smooth. And that would just bug the hell out of me. So I ended up having to return it. They didn't have one to replace it with. So I still don't have one of those in my hand. Good segue. In my hands, though, is a beautifully imperfect 2011, actually, Gibson SG Pete Townsend edition. It is the 50 years of the Gibson SG with a commemorative little silkscreen. Has an inlaid Gibson logo, bound neck, 2 black P90s, pickguard still with the plastic on it, nice white with your standard stuff. Just a very nice SG. And why I chose to do this is this guitar for this video is that this is still a delightfully flawed guitar. I would love it if this just had a flower pot here and not this silly silk screen that you can't even really clearly read. Likewise, it's got a wraparound bridge, but that's more of an homage to what Mr. Townsend has in his. So, yay. But even the imperfect ones over time, priced right, and when the market adjusts, I got this at a fantastic deal, are worth picking up. And it's a nice segue to the other ones that I thought this year looked kind of awesome. And a lot of them come out of Gibson Memphis. The first one is I'm green with envy for this Gibson ES355 in a beautiful green with vintage old stock finish and a Bigsby, I think it's a B7 on it. And it's just luscious. I mean, look at this thing. It's a beautiful guitar. It's a new take on it. I haven't seen Gibson ever do one like this. It looks delightfully aged into that finish, even though it is a new model, and I don't believe they've ever offered it in the past, except maybe a one-off here and there. But it's a great guitar, and I know the price is kind of hugely expensive on it, but I think this is one that if I were to see pop up and I happen to be flush or getting ready to sell something big off, I'd seriously think about it, because it's one of the ones that really made me stop and take a look at it. Similarly, there's an Indigo Blue 335 that you can see here, and it's just, I love my blue flame top guitars when done right. I think Gibson has struggled to really hit it out of the park with it. Ironically, I have a Chinese manufactured Les Paul copy that has a phenomenal blue color that I think anyone would love to have on one of the guitars if you're Gibson or Epiphone or whomever. But I think this one's just a gorgeous one for the 335. Also from Memphis is the Les Paul ES, which I think is just a really cool Les Paul semi-hollow, but actually done in Memphis now, so it's built by people who build semi-hollows, and it's not just a carved out sort of half-fast way to do it, but a different designed guitar that kind of gives you a sound that splits the gap between a 335 and a Les Paul, with some beautiful finishes. Smallest of smallest quibbles is the Les Paul horn, the cutaway, right here on a standard. It's not exactly the same shape as a regular Les Paul. If you have OCD and it's sitting on the wall next to your Les Paul standard or R8, R9 or whatever, it may bother you, or you might just accept it, but it's worth pointing out. On that same vein, I stumbled across recently, this year also has a Les Paul ES Custom Black Beauty, and that's a 2 or 3 pickup semi-hollow custom from the same Memphis factory with the F-holes, with a Bigsby on it, gold. It's gorgeous. I really want one. Dear Santa, I've been a good boy. Yeah, right. Thanks, Santa. I think I've had enough water under the bridge with Santa that I'm happy just to get a nod and a smile. But that's the Gibson Memphis stuff. The custom shop's doing amazing things. I won't even touch them here, because if you're watching my channel, you're probably not in the custom shop tax bracket. And if you are, sweet, go check them out. They're awesome. As always, there's new custom runs. Finally, the Gibson Nashville, there's still some great stuff, and I talked about it in the last video. The Gibson candy finishes, so it's a small amount of candy flake in some of the cherries, and actually a bunch of different colors there. But they have a cherry sunburst with a cherry back with candy flake that you look at it on the wall, and for some reason it just glints a little bit more than any other guitars around it. And my one here in Natick, Massachusetts, has just this gorgeous one with amazing AAA 4A maple top on it that just calls to me up there with its $3,000+ price tag, and it just makes me think about figuring what I could sell to buy it. It's that amazing cool, but it's not like, you know how like old amusement park rides used to have huge chunks of whatever Mylar in the paint to make it look woo, all so flashy with the old Mustangs going around in circles or the helicopter ride or cheese? It's not that. It's so fine that you barely even notice, but it just happens to catch the light when you look at it, and I don't know, it's just cool enough and glintsy enough to really kind of dig it. The second thing is the removable pickguard on Les Paul Standard. The fact that you can just unsnap it and take it off and it looks great, especially with figured tops, it looks phenomenal. But snap it back in too, especially if you liked having a finger rest there. And no screws, no anything. And they even were great enough to put a vestigial organ of a screw in the guard so that it still looked like you expected a Les Paul pickguard to look. That's a tip of the cap to the purists, and well, thank you. Um, moving along, if you're looking at a lower end Gibson, this is the golden age. Wait for it to go on sale at Guitar Center, Sweetwater, Sam Ash, wherever. And you can get a junior for under $700 often. You can get a special for definitely under $9, I think in the 8s. And they come with really nice gloss finishes, those dastardly G-Force tuners that you can always sell for more than the replacement Grovers you can put in cost. They leave no holes, they leave nothing behind, but also, if it's going to be your one guitar to pick up and play, having the auto-tune in there, I'll tell you what, I used a 2015 special for a long time, a couple weeks ago, and it was nice to retune up with it, and alternate tunings. I wouldn't seek it out, but it's not the devil that perhaps some of us have thought it was in the past. But you can get those, and they come with hard shell cases, nitro finishes, the G-Force tuners, case candy. The newer ones come with the extra battery on there. At that price range, it's the best value for dollar new that you've been able to get in market year from Gibson. So check them out. As I say, I bought one. I brought it back because of the finish issue there, and then finances shifted elsewhere, so I haven't bought another one since. But they're great, and that'll be the one that in the next few years I'll cherry pick one and pick one up. As I said, the G-Force tuners leave no holes, leave no traces. Put in whatever tuners you want. You want vintage in there afterwards, you want Grovers. If you have the ability to put them in, tap some new holes, call it a day, and you've been made whole again. They also have all the pickups in them, or the quick swap, which if you don't mind paying the premium for other newer pickups that come with the quick swap plugs, it means that you can buy new pickups from Gibson or even Seymour Duncan and swap them right in, plug them in with no soldering. Hooray! Welcome to the modern era. Here's another mea culpa. I tip my cap and say, I'm sorry, good sirs. The new Gibson 2015s have a wider neck. It's a different neck shape. After some time playing with it and using it, I will tell you, it's really comfortable. It feels foreign at first, feels sort of all right, and I'll tell you, when you go back to your normal guitars after playing it, you kind of miss it. And like this guitar is a real kind of tiny neck. It's very small. And then you go to that and there's like almost, feels like a ½ an inch more neck. It's probably less than that. And just to grip and play and run with, and it's just really, really nice. So, mea culpa, it's really kind of good. Another one I complained in the last video was the holograms were crooked. And that was also related to the first batches rushing out. They actually moved the placement of the hologram up more so that the G-Force tuners cover the top edge. So even if it was crooked or whatever, you really wouldn't notice it nearly as much. Although you may as soon as you take off the G-Forces and swap them. But at least tip my cap on it that most are now straight. They're good. Just if you're going to buy one, check the finish over the hologram because it might be lifting there, and I just wouldn't want to see that chip away later or something like that. It would look kind of crappy. So make sure you check those. So, anywho, I'm rambling, but this is my second round of 2015 thoughts, and the 2016s are probably right around the corner. I wanted to just kind of show some of the things I've learned over the years and share some of that. You know, there still are some lousy decisions there. Everyone hates Gibson's CEO, but they're still putting out guitars that are of, you know, they're still maintaining, keeping the light on. They're still keeping up with their legacy. So it is what it is. It depends on what you're looking for. But if you're looking at for something semi-hollow, or if you're looking something in the low end of the Gibson pool, this is one of the best years to do it. There might not be a $450 faded series out there, which a lot of people love, but you might be able to get for $500 or $600 a really nice nitro with a neat hard shell case. It's the way it is. And, you know, change is always a little scary, and we'll see what they stick with this year and next year and the year after, and see if they keep trying. So, anywho, that's my much longer video than I anticipated, but I've been Nick in the States, and as always, I have issues. Take care, folks.